Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live, the first of our Trade Week editions this year for 2018. And as usual, we have the full deck on board. We have Donkey Magoo. How you going, Donk? Oh, jeez, it's been a long day. How you going, Donk? Sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't really care, mate.
Macca, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks.
Very good, Nikki. Nice to have you along again.
On the couch with a rug and the heater on.
Right, and Pete, of course. How you going, Peter?
Good, mate. How are we going?
Very good. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? And go into what's probably going to be the only bloody content of the night, which is the news.
Much ado about nothing in terms of Crow's trade news. Of course, we're sitting and waiting on the Mitch McGovern trade. That's our big card. Certainly in the early stages, I'd suspect that there'll be some draft swapping later in the piece, possibly even live trading on draft night. But for the moment, we all sit with bated breath to see how the McGovern trade pans out. And interesting that possibly impacting on our trade was Dylan Shield not nominating Carlton, which leaves Carlton with perhaps a little bit more collateral than they might ordinarily have had. But there has certainly been an amazing amount of social media chatting and toing and froing about the McGovern trade. And fair to say there's a whole lot of Crow supporters sitting there with bated breath and ready to wet the bed at any given moment if that trade doesn't go our way. So that... of course,
on that one, Pete, there's a rumour which is coming straight from Carlton, who quite specific about it, saying that there has been agreement on the McGovern trade, and that we will be receiving. They get McGovern, obviously, and we receive picks 26, 28, McAdam, and we give up our third draft pick next year, and receive their fifth draft pick next year.
Well, I'm sure that'll excite Crows fans no end. And
yeah.
If you've
Macca,
you may well have heard it here first.
No, Macca, that's not from Carlton. That's from... You're implying that it's actually come from the club itself. That's
No. The Carlton, big footy board.
Yeah, but
the
big footy board. They're also talking about pick 13 from Sydney coming to us.
Macca, you interrupted my news to tell me a big footy board rumour. That's excellent.
Well, it's a bit
You're
of
lucky there's no red cards on Tuesday Night Live, Macca.
Talk about an early cockwomble nomination.
There is a top bubble.
I'll just finish that the news that we did have earlier in the week was, of course, Tyson Stengel from Richmond came out and nominated the Crows as a destination, and that will be a player that we'll be looking to trade in at some point. So that, but that's probably about it for Adelaide. I think probably after that, open slather for everyone that wants to talk about 1,000 different trade theories that are going on.
Do you reckon Stengel's the best 22 at Adelaide?
Oh, probably not. But I think that he possibly could be. He's still only, he'd only be, 20, 21 at most. He's had 2 years in the Richmond system, drafted as a rookie from the under-18. So, he's probably developed in terms of being a small forward, he's probably been developing a pretty good system. And I expect that I wouldn't have thought that he'd be a best 22 player straight off the bat, but he may well be in time.
Yeah, and, Lockie Murphy wasn't really rated that highly until we saw his AFLX form, and then when he got his debut. So there's no reason why Stengel can't do the same.
But that's what you do in trades. You're not always often bringing in a player immediately that's going to impact on your best 22, but is going to assist your list.
No, but there's a lot of clubs that actually do try and trade best 22 players in, Nikki. I'm not sure the Crows have tried it too much, but there are other clubs that do it.
There are some, yes, that is part of it, but the whole thing is it's your list overall.
He'll certainly be closer to our best 22 than Richmond's, purely because of the amount of players they have in his position. And we don't have, apart really from probably Betts and Murphy, players in that sort of exact position.
The one thing he's got going for him, he is quick. He's got a lot of pace, and that's something that we're not over endowed with.
Yeah, but is he? I mean, really, he's a small forward?
Very small.
Yeah.
Small forward. I mean,
He's in the Eddie Betts mould and the Lockie Murphy mould.
yeah.
But also, sorry, Mac, you go.
I saw him play his first game for Richmond, and he actually made a reasonable debut, actually. And I think he kicked a goal off memory. And he certainly is not frightened to tackle, and he's got plenty of pace. He's got assets. But, you obviously have to develop them to be consistently good at that level. So, but I think he's got something to work with.
I think realistically, as PJ Crow says in the chat, there's not going to be many that we'll be looking at because I think it's fairly clear, and Kane Corns dropped that amazing bit of insightful information this afternoon that we'll be, really looking at trying to, move up the draft. Not that any of us would have even suspected that with all those South Australian kids at the top end, but no, that's what we're trying to do. We won't be spending draft picks on, trying to get in big players.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Pete. I think that like the Stengel's a bit of an opportunistic one, and I dare say he's a third rounder at best. All our focus is on trying to get up into that, top half a dozen, but it's looking less likely, I got to say. I can't see a scenario at the moment that gets us into that top half a dozen. Gold Coast have come out and said that they're quite keen on the two South Aussie boys, which delays their Crows debut by a couple of years. So, we may have to settle on not that it's a bad thing, but we may have to settle on a Rosie or Haitley.
Well, the sad thing is that if Wingard were to get traded to the Bulldogs, they would actually get pick 6, which would probably give them an opportunity to get one of the three South Australians.
I don't think they'll get past the first 3, Mac, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think Gold Coast have taken both.
Well, Walsh is... Carlton have already declared they'll be taking Walsh as the first pick.
Yep.
I think that Lukosius will definitely go to Gold Coast. And then they may or may not take Rankin because apparently he's regarded as a little bit of a flight risk. And also they may take one of the two Kings, for example. I'm just thinking
they're not real keen on the Kings, I don't think.
The way I'm thinking that if the two Kings are in the top 6, along with Walsh, and then you got 3 South Australians, that's 6. And my worst fears would be realising if Port got hold of one of those 3 players. And I think they're obviously going to go very early, those boys. I think you're quite right. I can't see how we can trade into that top 6 because I certainly wouldn't be handing up that position if I had one of those.
No, I mean, with McGovern giving us Carlton as his destination, I can actually see McGovern trade not happening. I think it's becoming less and less likely.
I think it will definitely happen because of the fact that they didn't get Devon Shield, and if the only bloke they got was the guy that's broken down from GWS, I would think that Sauce would be seen as having failed in his duty. So I think they will definitely make the McGovern deal happen.
Well, how does that happen, Macca? How does it happen? Are you happy with 2
got
second rounders
as well?
Are you happy with 2 second rounders and a SANFL player?
If that 2 second rounders can, what Nicky was saying before was the rumours is saying that the 2 second rounders go to Sydney, who may well accept them for academy purposes, and in return we get pick 13. And if you work out pick 13 plus McAdam, and even taking into account the what they're saying, we lose our 3rd next year and in return get their 5th. I've done the points allocation. It works out about pick 8. And I think so on that basis you say it's a reasonable trade.
Yeah, it's a reasonable trade, but it doesn't get us into Lukosius or Rankin.
I think also the problem with that trade now is the compo that's gone to to West Coast from the Lysett trade. free agency. Jeez, how well am I going tonight? Haven't even been drinking.
That's your problem.
The combo pick that goes to West Coast, together with their own pick, would put them in the box seat to get that pick 13 from Sydney, because they'll need that for Kelly.
Yeah.
And so those picks from West Coast, that would be a more attractive proposition to Sydney than what the Carlton second rounds would be.
Yeah.
That's one problem I see with that.
Well, yeah, that makes sense too, Pete.
Which is possibly why we're hearing things are being pushed and worked on today, is that we're working on trying to get that pick 13 back fairly quickly before, because Geelong are jumping up and down about Kelly. They don't want to release him. They're after something very high. So the longer that drags out might possibly help us, but it also may not. It's a real unknown this year, because we've got that later pick trading which goes on further, and then there's going to be live pick trading on the night.
Yeah, to me, the only way we get into that echelon is if we somehow package up. Like, we could on-trade, I don't know whether we're allowed to, but theoretically, if we grab that 13 from Sydney, which I agree with you, Pete, I don't think it's likely, but if we were to end up with 13 and packaged up 8 and 13 and gave it to St Kilda for 5 or whatever the hell they've got, that's about the only way we can do it, I think. And with Wingard on the nose at Port, and you would imagine that he might get a single figure pick from somebody. It does put them in the box seat for at least one of those two lads early.
Well, I don't even think it's going to be Rosie available. I think that we, if we're lucky, we might get Haitley in, because I honestly think that after his performance in the SNFL finals, that Rosie's going to be up in the top 5.
I think you're right. I think that Haitley's
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I hope
there's a number of Vic boys that are quite high up as well.
Where do you think Rosie will go, Nikki? Or Fiend, whoever?
I think he'll be closer to 10.
Really?
Because we know that St Kilda are very keen on the King boys. So their pick, if you're going to try and push St Kilda back, you have to get them a pick that's still going to possibly get them one of the King boys.
Well, and you could almost guarantee that, Nick, I reckon, if you did a deal with the Saints, because what have they got at the moment? Have they got 5 or 6?
I think they've got 5.
Yeah, they got 5.
So 8 and 13, you would expect that gives them a reasonable shot at definitely one of the Kings and possibly both, considering that we're going to take a South Aussie. Port are going to take a South Aussie most likely if he's available. Western Bulldogs are probably going to spend their first round pick to get Wingard. And Brisbane Lions are probably going to spend their first round pick to get Lachie Neale. So St Kilda are the ones I think that we would have to trade to get into. But in answering your question, Pete, I'm a bit with Nikki. I think Rosie goes about 7 to 10. Not because that's where he's ranked in the draft, but I think that's just might be how the cards fall.
Sure.
Because it's the needs of the clubs you've also got to take into account. And I would back in Ogilvy because I think he's got very good links to figuring out what everybody else needs, and he knows pretty much who's going to take who where because of what their needs, etc. are. So I think there's possibly quite a bit of talking going on between him and Justin Reid regarding whatever picks we get back as to what he can do with it.
Nick, they chat. The clubs would chat too, wouldn't they, on the draft order?
They do. They all kind of have a fair. I mean, everybody knows the first round is pretty much a given. Everybody knows what everybody else is taking.
Fiend, you're a list management expert. certainly
in his own mind.
In a CrowCast context,
I'm better than Wallace.
You're better than Wallace.
I'm better than Wallace.
talk me through the Gold Coast list from the point of view of there was some rumours floating around through the week about the potential of getting a hold of 2 and 3 for a whole trailer load of picks between, our potentially, if you look at next year's first, our first this year, Melbourne's first from last year, plus a couple of seconds. Do they have a need to build up that list, and would it be more attractive for them to have a number of players in the top 20 of the draft rather than just having 2 or 3?
Well,
I seriously don't know the answer to it.
Yeah, and it's a question without notice, so thanks for that. Look, I mean, there's probably 2 facets to the Gold Coast issue. The first is what road are they going to take? Are they going to basically try to rebuild that list from the ground up, or are they going to try and feed in some more ready-made stuff in order to try and build on what is probably as bad a list as what their results describe. But the second point too is, Pete, is, as Macca pointed out, it's the point situation and what they want to do with their academy, and they may be in a situation where they're willing to trade around, just to make sure that they've got enough points. But I think the AFL would smash Mark Evans around if he gave away 2 and 3. I just can't see a scenario where they give away 2 and 3, because short of getting someone like a Dylan Shield or someone like that, what are they going to get for that money? Who's actually in the market that's going to garner that sort of a pick? I don't think Chad Wingard's a top 5 pick. In fact, I think that anyone who pays in the top 10 for Chad Wingard is paying overs. Who else is on the market at the moment which would even be attractive to Gold Coast at that price?
No, nobody.
I don't know that it's I don't know that it's that down to the realms of possibility, and I don't know that it's that bad move for Gold Coast, really. There's no point in them getting top 5 ticks that just sort of wash out of the system straight away. I mean, if I was Justin Reid, I'd be on the dog and bone straight away and saying, "Hey, mate, we can give you all this stuff. You're going to get kids that." They're going to get later picks that aren't going to disappear into the ether. They're going to get kids that are going to stick around, and what they really need to do is build a critical mass that doesn't move and leave. And the problem they've got at the moment is that every kid that gets any good gets paid $1 million to go work somewhere else, and they jump on the plane and get out of there. What they need is what. I was going to say what they need is a lot of people sticking around. So if they can bring in 1 or 2 trade periods, a group of 5 to 10 young fellas that are going to play together for a long period of time, that aren't going to be lured away and taken apart like sharks sort of going at a sardine pond, they're going to have more chance of having long-term success.
Yeah,
and I think that.
Sorry,
we have approached them. We have already approached them, and they've already said no.
I mean, that all sounds really well in theory, Donk. But again, what's the currency?
Well, the rumour thing that went round was the currency was, our 3 firsts, which are not that high, basically a pick swap with a bundle load of picks for 2 and 3. Now, and this was just a rumour that flew around. This is not something that I just sort of had an idea about. And what I was trying to get at, and whether you in fact even knew, is their list in a position where they've got so many people that are out that they actually need a number of picks. They actually need to take 10 or 6, 7 picks at the draft rather than just 2.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, who have they dropped so far? They've lost Lynch. Who else have they lost?
The team who actually needs picks is St Kilda.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at before, Nick.
Yeah, they only have 6, and their next pick is pick 60. And they've got Hanbury coming to them. So they've got to have a pick somewhere for Hanbury. So I think if you get them, and what do you think, what's Sydney going to want for Hanbury?
Well,
he's only with the second rounder these days.
No.
Yeah, so
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Macca.
Very ordinary year. Shocking year.
Well, ordinary year, but a pretty
That's
decent
one.
career.
Yeah.
Been ordinary 2 years. Been ordinary for 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, St Kilda seem to be the vulnerable one for me because they've got a lot of work to do on their list and they don't have a lot of picks. And I feel like St Kilda squandered an opportunity over the last couple of years where they did have some good picks, high-end picks, and they just haven't used them well. But to finish off, I guess, the Gold Coast discussion, Pete, they've dropped, 2 off their list so far? I don't know what they've dropped off the back end in terms of rookies and end of the squad kind of players. But for me, the feeling that I get is that they're going to go for basically a full rebuild, and they're going to need picks for points for their academy. And I just don't. I know that Rankin and to a lesser degree Lukosius represent flight risk for them, but I just don't. I don't see them passing it up. I don't see them passing up 2 and 3. I think that would fly in the face of what they're trying to do up there, because I don't see them inject. They haven't got there's not enough mature age, top quality players around for it to be worth their while, in my opinion. Everyone that's any good is already nominated somewhere else.
So you think the Saints pick is probably the one that's a potential? What was that? What's that, pick 6?
That's pick 6. You would think that if we gave 8, 13 and a player, we would be able to get 6, I believe.
Yeah.
I would give 8 and 16 and keep 13 if you could.
Well, that's a possibility too, because you would think 13 or 16 would be enough to get Hanbury done.
Yeah.
And it makes up for them, like if they were to do a deal with West Coast for those 2 lower end picks, it keeps them in the first round of the draft. So to me, St Kilda's the one, and they have been relatively quiet. And DSG on the chat is saying 8, 13 and a player is too much to get 6.
Oh, definitely.
Well,
it is.
It's a means to an end, Macca. It's again, people get hung up on numbers, but the fact is you've got to do what you need to do to get the outcome that you want. And 8 and 13 plus, say, Cameron Ellis-Yeoman to St Kilda for Isaac Rankin, I'd do it every day of the week, particularly if we've still got 16 in the bank, or alternatively 8, 16 and Cam Ellis-Yeoman for Rankin and keeping 13 to maybe pick up Haitley or possibly, I don't know, Valenti or someone like that, or maybe a good Vic Country lad. I'd do it every day of the week.
Now, the one thing is, are we getting a little bit too hung up on just South Australian players? And the reason I say that is I saw an interview with Ogilvy, and I don't know whether other people saw it or not, but they asked Ogilvy, obviously, you've got to have a lot of draft picks. Have you got plans for them? And he said, well, look, he said we've got 2 lots of plans, because one is, or several lots of plans. One is if we trade some, and some is, and then what's got plans if we don't trade them, any of those picks. And he said his preference was to have the full hand. He would rather have the full hand of draft picks. I think he thinks he could do the most damage with that.
That's his job. So of course he would want draft picks to play with, the maximum that he would. That's a no-brainer. That's a nothing answer he's giving, really.
Well,
man.
No, he didn't qualify that firstly by saying very much what we've been saying, that clubs in the first 5 tend never to trade those away. So working on that particular theory,
except they have traded them away.
Or perhaps rarely might have been the word, Nick. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't happen very often. Not in terms of like for other picks. That's what I'm getting at.
I mean, at the end of the day, the other thing to consider, and I think, I've said this a little bit, and I'll probably, bore people to death, but I don't think Lukosius is worth even chasing, because I don't think he fills a need that we have in our squad at the moment. Our needs are speed and probably a little bit of defensive cover. and the rest of it is just best available. So, in terms of the draft, if you're going to spend big points on a player, you want them to be ready made and you want them to be quick.
So you want Rankin if you could, but I think that's not a possibility.
Yeah,
or Rosie.
Yeah, Rosie's no slouch either, Nikki, in terms of pace.
Yeah,
he's certainly fast enough.
And it's really interesting that Ogilvy was asked about Rosie and started talking him down, which made me think, yeah, I reckon he's the one we've got our eye on.
I thought that too, Nikki.
Yeah.
Because you started going, oh, he's a midfielder and he hasn't played a midfield. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it.
He didn't play well.
If Rankin goes to the Suns, he's a better than 50% chance to want to come back after 2. The big danger with Rankin is that Port wangle their way into that conversation and pick him up, because if Port pick him up, he's likely to stay with Port for the majority of his career. So Lukosius, we have, like, when you have a look at our list, at our squad, we have enough cover in the forward lines in all facets. We don't. Lukosius is a fantastic player, and all indications are that he's going to be a champion. But in terms of where our squad sits, he's not a need. If he wasn't a South Australian, we wouldn't be talking about him.
100% right. Yep.
Yeah, just like we're not really talking about the King boys.
Yeah, for the same reason, they're key posts.
Yep.
So, and we don't need that. We need good speed on the outside, and we need a little bit of cover down back, in my opinion. It doesn't look as if we're going to be able to pick up any mature, classy outside mids in the trade period, because they're just not around. The ones that are around don't want to come here. They've already nominated their clubs. So to me, it seems like the draft will be all about drafting some new speedy talent, and also hopefully next season promoting blokes like Jordan Gallucci at the expense of, say, a Richie Douglas, to try and get a little bit more pace through that midfield. And maybe, we've got Smith, Seedsman and Miller who can cameo through that area as well. The only other bloke that I'd be looking at maybe offloading is Rory Atkins, who might be someone that can sweeten a deal with someone like St Kilda.
And the thing is, you just look at who we're possibly targeting with Sengel and also Mikado. They're both forward pockets. To me, that says we've already identified that we're pushing Gallucci more in the midfield. We need some of that speed back in that forward line, where we've played him this year. We've given him that experience, the taste of AFL, and then that last game against Carlton, we threw him into the midfield.
Are you talking
Nikki,
about?
I'm glad you raised the name McAdam. That's a pretty important name that we haven't discussed tonight, and I'd really, if you're happy to move to that topic, it's one that I'd really like to explore, because I didn't see a lot of Sturt this year, and everything that I've read is that he's a little bit more than a permanent forward. He's a guy that can push up
wing
to the wing. But I don't know a lot about him, other than I've read that he's pretty quick, and that he's a pretty decent player. Has anybody seen him? And what's everybody's thoughts on McAdam? Because he is a player that seems almost certain to be at our club next year.
He's Mitch McGovern clone.
When you watch his highlights, he's a very talented player, in the sense of he has got pace, and he can kick both feet, and he can take a very good overhead mark, and he's pretty clean on the ground, and he's got a good kick. So he's got plenty of attributes. Apparently, he hasn't taken the game particularly seriously until the last 12 months or so. He this last year. The one just gone, the season just gone, he apparently had a very good season. I don't know, there'd be Sturt boys who could certainly comment a lot more about it than we could. But he is thrilled about the possibility of being coached by Matner. So he obviously, in an Adelaide team, very, very keen to get him. So he obviously has got some ability. Everything I'm telling you is secondhand, because I didn't watch him all year, and I'm only looking at his highlights. But people who did watch him all years did say he had a very good year.
Reports are that we've had a scout at every game he's played, watching him, and Ogilvy's interviewed him, I think, about 2 or 3 times.
What's the thing that we're going to miss most about Mitch McGovern, in your opinion?
It's contested marking.
Yep.
He takes that freak mark at the right time when you really need it.
In my opinion, it's X factor, and I actually think that's what McAdam brings to the table. He can take a grab, he can take a contested grab, he can take a high grab, he can do mercurial things, and I think if you slotted him in the forward line or even played him higher, I think he offers an element of what we're going to lose with Gov. And let's face it, Gov hasn't been consistent. He's certainly made some clutch plays, and he gives you a taste of it. And you think, God, this kid could be anything. But I think we do get a little bit of that back, and potentially all of it back, if we do pick up McAdam. So I think he's a tasty sidebar in the McGovern deal. I'm just not sure that 2 second rounders along with McAdam is enough.
How tall is he, Fiend, you know?
180. I'll look it up, but I think he's sort of mid-180s.
181 is what he was listed at as the waffle.
Nicky, is he a bit of a Ben Davis? Sort of like?
I reckon he possibly is, just by the sounds of it. I mean, we've had some reports on the Big Footy board of some people who have actually watched him, and they're a little bullish on him. But I think the 181, that makes him a little bit smaller.
I don't think he's 181.
Because Davis is I reckon he's got to be taller than that.
Yeah,
Davis is 187.
Well, Paholke's 186, and I reckon he's taller than Miles Paholke.
Yeah, I reckon you're right. I reckon they've got that wrong.
Well, I mean, that was a couple of years ago.
McGovern 190, is he?
191, I reckon.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a bit more updated info.
Look, I just think that our team is a bit one-dimensional and lacks a bit of flair. Apart from Eddie Betts, I don't feel like we've got anyone who has that real flair about them. And I think McAdam is just someone that you could throw in and he will be inclined to make something out of nothing at times. And that's you know, assuming he ends up being up to the standard, because let's face it, we've only seen him at SANFL level, and there's plenty of SANFL players that can't make the grade, like a Mitch Grigg. So, I mean, you know, who knows? But based on exposed form, I think he gives the team a little bit of unpredictability that we need, to be honest.
Well, PJ Crow says he kicks goals, and he certainly does. So I'm with you on that one, Phoenix. That we don't have anybody that I'm assuming that he can translate his SANFL form into AFL form, and if he can do that, he has got that unpredictability about him that is just that X factor around the goals, which is very, very handy.
So, what do you think about the picks to go along with McGovern in that trade, or McAdam? Sorry, Pete. Are you happy with the mid-20s?
Oh, look, definitely on their face, no. You would have hoped that they could have been combined and traded to a Sydney, but I think that we've got some strife with that now, as I said before, with how West Coast is placed and what they need for Kelly. So I think that's going to be difficult. The trouble is that the difficulty is you just don't know what the whole picture is, and what deals, what picks need to satisfy what deals. And I think I made mention of this last week. It's difficult when all we look at is we say, well, what's the value of what do we see as the value of the player? And we all know that the value of the player, is somewhere between probably, anywhere between 13 and, I don't know, maybe 10 because he's contracted, maybe 10 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So we, as onlookers, we just see, well, that's the value. But obviously what goes on behind closed doors is that what do we need to get the next deal done? What do we need in our cart to move to the next to the next stop? And that's what we don't see. And I know that this sometimes gets a lot of derision, this type of attitude on social media, but I really do believe when we're looking at particularly a year where what we're wanting to do is bundle up picks and get ourselves up the draft board, we really are going to have to wait pretty much until draft night with the live trading to really find out, did we get what we needed to get? We're not actually going to know.
Yeah.
And so for all we know, those two second rounders may well have currency for somebody else, like a St Kilda, or I don't know. And until that all plays out, we're just not going to know.
Well, and the other wild card is the Giants, because if Rory Lobb gets to Fremantle, that gives the Giants pick 6, and with their salary cap issues, they may well be inclined to look at their academy or look at academy players, which means that really they're only interested in points, which means that maybe that pick 6 might be accessible as well. So you've got the Giants. That'd be pick 5, wouldn't it, for from Fremantle? Anyway, 5 or 6. So the Giants might be a bit of a smoky, because they're also going to get a pick for Shield as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Giants might be someone that would be willing to look at something.
And that's a really good point, because that's a classic example of like a team like either like Gold Coast, Sydney, GWS, where what they actually need is points, and the actual draft number isn't as important.
Yeah.
So that could be something that we're looking at, and we're just not going to know that. And what we'll see, if that is how it goes down, that we just get those 2 second round picks, that's all we're going to see. And of course, there'll just be a massive meltdown about that. We're just going to have to see how that plays out. But no, on its face, Fiend, no, you wouldn't. Let's just excuse me. Let's put it this way: those 2 draft picks do not equal his value.
No, not even with McCann thrown in to the bargain.
No, definitely
in my opinion.
No, but maybe they have some kind of intrinsic value to somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's a reasonable summary of it. The problem we face, of course, is the fact that of all the clubs that had to be nominated, he nominates Carlton. And when you look at what Carlton's got apart from pick 1, and those second round draft picks, it's nothing. And
they have next year's first as well.
Yes, there is next year's first, but if we get next year's first, it's the same problem as the seconds. You've got to do something with it and get somebody who will turn that into something for this year that you can use. So,
I'm not sure whether you can trade future picks when you get them. Can you?
That I don't know. I really
Who
don't
knows
know.
with the AFL?
I don't know.
Well, they do break the rules, of course, because they allowed Geelong.
Only if you're Geelong or Hawthorn.
Yeah. But I think the result that we're hearing that, and if it's correct, I think it's about as good as we're going to get out of them, unfortunately, because I don't think they've got anything better to give us.
Well, and I think that takes them out of the picture, to be honest with you. I really do. I don't think a deal gets done for McAdam in 2 seconds, notwithstanding what we've just been discussing about means to an end and all that sort of stuff. Because I think there'll be other teams that will be interested, that will put deals together that may entice McGovern to change his mind on his preferred destination. And one of those, I think, is Hawthorn.
Well,
if Mitch McGovern... Sorry?
I don't think anybody's interested.
In McGovern?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I disagree.
Yeah, I think there'll be others.
Well, his manager said at the time when he chose Carlton that there were 3 other teams, West Coast and Freo in the West, and one Victorian team which he wouldn't name out of respect.
Yeah.
What bullshit that is. And I don't think there is another Victorian team. That's what I honestly think.
But that's when he still had 2 years to go on a contract to us. So other teams were possibly interested but wouldn't have thought he was really on the market so much. And I wouldn't trust too much out of Colin Young's mouth.
No, I was just about to say that player manager's a snake. Most of them are. I think there might be a couple of other clubs sniffing around, and I think McGovern has shown to be someone who's prone to change his mind. He could be swayed for a decent deal, and if you have a look at who the possibilities might be, Hawthorn springs to mind. Jordan Ruffhead's not getting much younger. They've got Gunston.
And they might
there.
lose him.
They've lost Cyril Rioli, so they've lost a bit of forward line X factor, although they're different types of players. I think that McGovern would appeal to Hawthorn as a ready-made quality young forward who's versatile enough to play back as well. And we know that they like to swoop in and make the big 11th hour deals, so I wouldn't write them off just yet.
And they also lost out on they were
Shield.
one of those after Shield.
Yeah.
So it means we know they've got money. They've put money aside for Shield quite a bit, so they've got something to play with there. And you're spot on, Phoenix. They've got a real problem in their back line. And I think they wouldn't sell it to him as that, but I think they would possibly earmark him to be a bit more of a swingman, more like his brother.
And also, like, it's a really good strategy for the Crows just to sit on this and bake him. Like, let's bake McGovern and bake Sauce. There's absolutely no incentive for us to do this fast if we're not getting the things we need to, and if there's no movement up forward. So I'm still crossing my fingers with my trademark donkey optimism that we're going to get picks 2 and 3 out of Gold Coast. But short of that. But short of that being locked away, I'd be quite happy to sit on McGovern until the end of the week, because the longer he sits, the more he stews, and he'll be straight up the apple and pears to his manager and saying, "You got to find me a way out of here." And if he doesn't, then he's stuck in a place that he's burnt bridges at and run it into the ground, and he's in a really bad spot. So,
and that's the key, Mac. That's the key, Donkey. That he has burnt bridges, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You don't, like, I can handle lots of different things that happen, but when you come out and say, I don't think the clubs are going in the right direction, that was the moment where I thought, you know what, mate, you can take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah.
The other solution to that, sorry, Nikki, the other solution to that, Fiend, is with those 2 second-round picks is there's no obligation on us to obviously to accept them on the basis that we may or may not be able to turn those into 13. It really becomes a matter for Justin Reid to say to Carlton, you need to turn those into pick 13.
Absolutely.
And you need to find a way to get in front of West Coast.
Yeah.
And so you go and use those 2 second-round picks and come back with some value from them. Sorry, Nikki.
No, I was going to say, just for Donkey, I'm quite an optimist myself, but I think there's 3 chances of us getting 2 and 3 out of Gold Coast, and it's Fat, Buckley's and none. There's a 4th one, but it's Rude.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you bailing on the Crows mid-season when we beat Geelong or something like that. So
when did I do that?
False dawn, Donkey. False dawn.
Yeah. I remember. I'll go through the tapes.
Moving along from the McGovern conversation, because we could probably sit here and talk permutations for hours. I'm a little bit surprised that Reid came out during the week and said that we weren't looking at the ruck position. How do people feel about that?
Do you think he's telling the truth?
No.
I don't either.
I think it was because he didn't say Zach Smith, he said Zach Clark.
Exactly right. I picked that up too, Nikki.
There's his plausible deny.
No, but he didn't. But he actually went further than that, Nick. He said we think Sauce is going along fine. Riley O'Brien had an injury last year, so he didn't get the opportunities, but we're happy. Blah 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 blah. There was absolutely no indication from Reid that we had a ruck in mind. And there's a couple of rucks sort of on the market. There's Jordan Ruffhead. There's talk about Tom Hickey going to WA. It would surprise me if we didn't do something about the ruck position, because the ruck position worries me in our squad.
I think the thing is, though, that we're not the only club that needs a ruckman. There's GWS need a ruckman. West Coast are going to need an extra one now. and there are other clubs as well that are looking around for extra ruckmen. So I think Reid may well be learning to the art of just being not quite telling the truth, like most of the managers or the guys in charge of trading do, so you don't give anything away. So I think, honestly, he would be looking around to see if there is somebody that we can pick up.
I think possibly you're spot on there. I think we're hedging our bets regarding just to see, because there's so many other suitors for ruckman, just to see what we can get and where we can actually fit that with other things we want to do and regarding the picks that we want to keep or which ones we're willing to let go. But it's also very interesting that nothing has been said about Hunter. I think he may be a fullback in that he may get picked up on the main list because he has to, because he's been a rookie for too long if we have to. But we haven't officially delisted him. There's just been no talk about Hunter. So
Reid
that's
mentioned
where
him
I'm thinking there's
Reid mentioned
something
him
going
in that conversation. In passing.
And the other thing is we've also started to use Himmelberg in the ruck.
Yeah, but Himmelberg's got to break into best 22 yet.
Yeah, he does, but his role will actually be to do some relief ruck. So the fact that we've started to use him to do that towards the back end of the season in the SANFL, and he did actually not too bad. He's still a bit slight, but I think there might be a little something going on there. I reckon we've got some irons in the fire, but I don't think Reid's confident of it actually happening.
Well, maybe the iron is in the fire is that they've been listening to a bloke called Phoenix on the CrowCast who said for the last month or two that they should ditch Jacobs, put JJ in the ruck and bring on Himmelberg into centre half forward. Then we don't need another ruck.
And I know that there was some talk about the fact that they couldn't, obviously they weren't able to play O'Brien because of his injury in the second half of last year, but there was some talk that they may well have played him. I just think there's a kid that they've put a lot of time and development into. At what point, taking the injury aside, but at some point, they've got to at least have a look at him and say, well, can he play AFL football?
Peter,
Nicky, you've seen a lot of Rob.
Yeah. He's a Source clone. He's got the problem with his foot is pigeon-toed in, which causes some issue with his kicking. But I love the way he really defends his midfielders, and he turns into another midfielder as soon as the ball's been tapped.
I think he's very. I think I'd have to disagree. I think he's a very, very different. Apart from the fact he's got red hair, I think he's very, very different.
Physically,
in the sense
physically
that
the same.
Source has magnificent foot skills. He's got some of the best.
He does.
You can say what you like about Source, but his foot skills are some of the best of any ruckman going around. He's a beautiful field kick, whereas O'Brien's terrible. But what O'Brien gives you is, he, as you say, Nicky, he gives you that extra midfielder at the contest because he is immediately on the ground. He's almost a Grundy in that way. I reckon
and he's got a good tank.
Didn't he, Nicky? You might know better than me, but didn't he have some quite high ranking statistic in the SNFL for clearances?
Oh, yeah, he was. And like his first season, he was holding his own. When he was an 18-year-old kid, he was holding his own against seasoned AFL ruckmen. And there's some SNFL. There's some good SNFL ruckmen out there.
But in terms of clearances, I think that he gives you almost that sort of Grundy thing where he's another, as you say, he's another midfielder at the contest, which Source doesn't give. Source doesn't give you that at all.
He's better at a contested grab than Source is.
Yeah, the only weakness, as we mentioned, though, his kicking is diabolical.
And that's because of that foot issue he's got, and he worries about it.
That's
and when he starts to worry about it, he tenses up, and that kick goes shit.
He hasn't been able to kick for his whole career. The big indicator for me with regards to O'Brien is that given that there are always clubs looking for ruckman or backup ruckman, why has his name never been mentioned in dispatches with regards to interest from other clubs? Because
there was last year.
Really?
When we locked him up.
Was there really? I don't know.
No. There was some talk from Melbourne. There were some feelers being put out about him, and we locked him up quickly.
I mean, because the situations are very similar to the one that Sauce found himself in at Carlton before we picked him up. The fact that Carlton had him third in line, you could say that, you know, Sauce represents two players on the list because Sauce is either fit or no one tells Sauce he can't play. So I would have thought there would be a club around, irrespective of the fact that O'Brien is contracted, he still wouldn't cost that much, who wouldn't have inquired. And the fact that they haven't kind of speaks to me about what the competition feels about Riley O'Brien, and he's got enough exposed form. And nobody rates him.
Well, that's true. What about the Darcy Fort from Centrals? He's a very tall boy. He's about 24, 25, something like that. And he's 205 centimetres tall. Has anybody seen... I've only read comments that the guy goes all right. Is he a possibility?
I don't know anything about him, Macca, unfortunately. I've not seen him play. I think the ruck position's evolving, and I think it might be evolving away from from blokes who can't offer something around the ground. And
breaking up, Phoenix.
I'm sorry?
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up.
One moment, please. How's that? Is that better?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think the ruck position is evolving, and I think teams are starting to realise that there's only 22 spots on the ground, and do you really want to sacrifice it for a 10 possession 2-mark bloke who just taps the ball half the time to the opposition or no one?
Well, it was an interesting stat I saw it even after the grand final, Phoenix, which was only two of the highest hit-out winning ruckmen of the last 10 grand finals or something, or had were the premiers of that year. So teams aren't necessarily winning the tap out isn't the advantage that it once was.
I agree with that. That seems to be the way. And look at how Collingwood struggled with Grundy being a little bit held on grand final day. They really lacked his input in their midfield, and I think that was a key tactic to keep Grundy out of the play, push him under the ball in marking contests, etc., etc. And he didn't have a huge impact. And I think Collingwood, notwithstanding the fact that they were in front for a lot of the time, I think they struggled to assert themselves because Grundy was relatively ineffective. You know, look what happens when Max Gawn's not in the team for Melbourne. Look at the impact that some lesser ruckmen have, like Reece Stanley at Geelong at times, and Stephen Martin as well, because they're a little bit more mobile and can offer a little bit more than just a tap ruckman. I think the whole position is evolving, and I think it's moving away from blokes like Sauce Jacobs and Riley O'Brien, to be honest with you. That's my view anyway.
If I could just interrupt, just on the AFL site, it's now official that the Swans helped Blues seal McGovern deal. And
No, it's not official.
That's what it says here.
No, it says they understand.
Well, if they're going to report it, it's pretty close.
It said Sydney has emerged as a circuit breaker in a deal to send Adelaide forward Mitch McGovern to Carlton, with a trade set to be finalised with the AFL on Wednesday. And it says that it's understood that they reached a breakthrough in talks over McGovern on Tuesday night, with official paperwork set to be lodged imminently. The Blues will send picks 26 and 28 to the Swans in exchange for pick 13. And Adelaide get pick 13.
And McAdam.
And McAdam.
That's a good result.
That's a good result. You'd be happy with that.
Yep, that's a good result.
But they have hedged their bets there, Macca, with the understands.
I'd say you wouldn't report it as inside.
The AFL website wouldn't report that if that wasn't close.
No, that'll happen tomorrow.
That's a good result if that goes through, and that just takes away that little scare I had with West Coast. So that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, that's that's one you take away as a win for both clubs. I think that's not no one's been completely done over there, and no one's come out a massive winner. So all the little 10 lists down at Etihad, you're knocking those deals down. Well done.
Happy with that.
So it comes back to. Sorry, we interrupted there. You're talking about rucks.
No, that's good. That's a good bit of news, Macca. And that comes from our website, not from some bloody bullshit big footy rumour.
But it was so you redeemed yourself.
PJ Crows had posted it in the chat.
But it was identical to what the Carlton bloke said, actually, believe it or not. So, anyhow, what I was going to say is we were talking about the possibility of Atkins. What would you hope to get for Atkins, Phoenix?
I think you'd get probably a mid-second rounder.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It'd be a second.
And the other player that is possibly a tradable player, Riley Knight.
Oh, wash your mouth out, Macca.
Pikey really loves Snyder.
I couldn't see Knight going. He's the only lockdown midfielder we've got, Mac.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But I was just thinking if there was somebody that we were after that needed a good second round or something like that, these would be the type of players you'd move on.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Kelly.
Well, Atkins and Kelly are probably the two. I don't know whether he'd quite get a second rounder for Kelly. I know that he had some good success over the last couple of seasons, staying in the best 22 in Adelaide, but I think the fact that he got moved out of that half-back role was actually a negative for him in those last few games where we pushed him up a little bit higher, because I think it actually showed that we didn't see him in that spot long term, and I reckon it might have just pushed down. I don't know. I think I'd put Jake Kelly in the same value range as Jared Lyons, and Jared Lyons got a mid-third rounder.
Yeah, that's about right, Fane, I reckon.
And I think if anything happens with Kelly, it will be likely to Collingwood if his brother nominates Collingwood.
I think his brother is going to know.
Yeah, but he hasn't yet. I think if there was something like that, then he might ask. And if it is, it'll be something to do with Collingwood.
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, I think Jake will do whatever he needs to do to stay on a list. I think he's that kind of player, and I think Craig is pragmatic enough to understand that. I'm sure he'd love to go to Collingwood, but I think if there was an issue with him, and there's been reports that there is a defender at Adelaide that is unsettled and unhappy with the outcome of his exit interview. We've got Jake is contracted, I think, isn't he? Certainly Cole Chaney's not contracted, so I would imagine
I think it's Chaney. Yeah. I think that's about Chaney, because we know there are issues regarding Chaney's contract, and he obviously, I think, had some bonuses.
Yeah, and we
in his contract, and we
cut
dropped
his
him
lunch. Yeah,
before those bonuses could kick in. So I think it's Chaney there that what they're talking about. So they got the young part wrong.
Yeah.
The other thing with Kelly, of course, it had a dual-fold effect, didn't it? The fact that we moved him up onto the wing, perhaps to progress his game, and also because it probably suited other players in other positions. But I also thought he went backwards once he went onto the wing.
Well, I think it exposed him, Macca. That's kind of my point. I don't think it actually showed him in a good light, because I don't think he handled the position at all well.
No.
Yeah. No, the one thing that sticks out in my mind from that little experiment was the fact that he didn't have the ability just to move the ball on or go forward. Like, he froze every time.
Agreed.
And the ball stagnated, and our drive stagnated every time he got it. It was horrible.
Yeah, agree with that, Tom. There's a couple of... let's take a focus just quickly away from the top few SA boys, because there's a couple of boys that really stand out for me lower down. I've been a fan of Valenti for a while, and I reckon he might even slip below the first round. And the other one is the bloody Woodcock, Roger Woodcock's kid. I reckon he's a bolter, and I would love to see us pick him up with a later round pick. Have you seen much of him, Peter?
Just what I saw on the TAVE. during the SNFL final series, and I did see a bit of him. And he looked every inch a terrific player, but he hadn't even played a full season. But gee, I tell you what, he certainly knew where the goals were. He showed some terrific skill in terms of his execution, and he looked every inch the small forward. I just wonder whether our commitment to Stengel may mean that we don't need another one of his type on the list. I'm not sure, but if they're going to load up, then he's certainly worth a later round pick for sure.
I can see him on the wing, Pete. I know he's not overly tall, but I could see him on a wing. He's got something about him, and he's got a beautiful kick, and he's tenacious, and I don't know. I put it this way, a bloke like that would give me far more confidence on a wing than a bloke like Rory Atkins, who really gives you one-way traffic.
Well, he certainly didn't do his chances of being drafted relatively, not in the first round necessarily, but in the first couple of rounds, he gave himself a very good chance of being drafted with his performance in the grand final.
Yeah, I agree. He played a great game.
It was a Cinderella run, and it was in no small part due to the performances of those two young lads across those 4 games in Woodcock and Rosie. Both of them were terrific.
Rosie was outstanding. He was absolutely
their first season, kids, and they're playing in this NFL final series and just really contributing strongly.
Yeah. So I guess there's lots of permutations, and one of the dominoes has fallen for us. I don't know whether we'll actually do much more. Apart from, I reckon Hamish will, now that this McGovern thing seems to have done, what does that leave us with? We've got 8, 13 and 16?
16 and 21.
8, 13, 16, 21.
Correct, yeah.
You can see some live trading going on with that, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, I think that was what I was referring to earlier, mate. That is that I think that's pretty much it now, and unless some, huge deal comes our way in terms of trading, getting those picks in order before, I think, you're right. It's take those picks to live trading and see what happens.
Yeah, agree. Not a good outcome. I'm actually surprised that we got Sydney's pick. I thought that was headed west.
Yeah, so did I. I think it's a good result.
Yeah,
I think the Shield decision today really helped us because it put pressure on Sauce. He had to have a win.
Yeah.
Because everybody's been talking about McGovern as a done deal. It's a done deal.
Sydney had to come to the party. They're the ones that I'm surprised about. I'm
which
sure.
Which means Sauce has had to give up something he wasn't willing to.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Anyway, who do you reckon's the winner so far? There hasn't been a huge amount of deals go on so far, but who do you reckon has enhanced their premiership chances so far because of a trade so far?
I think Essendon was Shield.
Essendon, undoubtedly Essendon. Shield is a very, very good footballer. Very good footballer.
Donkey, what do you reckon?
Look, I don't know about premiership. That's probably too far away for him. But I think at least by the end of this period, I think Brisbane, with a couple of their RFA pickups and a few little sneaky things they've done, are going to improve pretty dramatically.
As long as they get Neil, I reckon. Donkey. They've got to get Neil yet, and Freo don't want to let him go just yet.
No, but it's Marcus Adams, and I think there was Neil, and I think there's another guy as well, isn't there?
Lincoln McCarthy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah,
but Essendon, the one thing that they've really lacked in the midfield is somebody who gets in and under and gets the ball. For example, they've got some really good players on the outside, but Shield actually has got the ability to play both. But he can earn a very good hard ball. So he's going to add a lot to their side. I think they dropped out of the 8 this year, even though I thought they probably had a better side. But I think they'll definitely be back in the 8 again next year.
Yeah, I think they're going to miss Goddard a bit next year, and I know that he was getting a bit cooked towards the end, but he still was actually racking up a fair bit of influence throughout the team, and I reckon they're going to miss him just around the ground and around the club. So I don't know whether they've how much extra they've added with Shield. That's all. I think Devon Smith last year was a bigger in for them than Dylan Shield is this year.
Goddard was pretty polarising at that club, though.
Yeah.
Not a lot of love for him from a fair portion of that club and playing group.
And the fact that he didn't turn up, he wasn't there for their best and fairest.
Yeah, which is rude.
I think says a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a tweet he sent, though. It was he had some other commitment, and he sent a very nice message. I don't think it was
he did, but I think there was possibly some planning involved with him not being involved as well.
Stage managed, you think, Nikki?
There was definitely some stage managing going on.
Yeah, that surprised me.
That's the way I looked at it.
Well, he's a player I would not like to play with because you see him out on the oval. He makes errors himself, and then whenever his teammates make errors, you can see him abusing them and yelling at them and telling them what they should be doing, and then it doesn't even give it a rest when there's a break that he's at them and telling them what they should be doing again. I reckon the players would be absolutely glad to see the back of him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Macca. Pete, who do you reckon the winner is so far? Early days, I know.
No, I reckon Donkey made a really good point on Brisbane. I think that they have, at the very least, they've got Neil nominating them, which is no more or less than what Shields done at Essendon. Trade still has to go through. So they've had, Lockie Neal, who's won the best and fairest at Freo. That's a pretty big get to have them, have a club like Brisbane, a South Australian that's playing in Perth nominates Brisbane. That is a big get.
Yeah.
And then in doing so, cleverly, they've got his best mate from Geelong, Lincoln McCarthy. They're best mates from the southeast. So they get the lad from Footscray. So, that's three probably, if not first 22 players, certainly Neil will be, and two, potential. I think that's a pretty good haul. And you've got to look at it in perspective too. It's Brisbane. So that tells you that they really are on the up. Then, that somebody is selling a good plan.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, haven't they righted the ship since David Noble went up there? Hate to say it, but David Noble had a lot of knockers in Adelaide, but he's got a good track record at two clubs now. I wouldn't mind betting that he ends up in AFL House.
He's definitely... I think when we talked about it with that move up there, because it was an AFL push.
It was, definitely.
And I think the three of us, we actually had a chat at the time and said this is his step there and then into AFL House.
Yeah, I think so. And good luck to him. I think he's made the most of his career and I think he's done really well. My
just
opinion,
needs to stay away from list management.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had some hits and misses with list management, but let's face it, he's thrown to the wolves with that. He wasn't a bloody list manager, but we made him do it, and he did pull off a couple of good ones. PJ Crows in the chat makes a good point that, Gaff staying at West Coast was probably a bit of a win for West Coast. But
and amusing.
Yeah, very amusing. Melbourne. Very amusing. Poor old North. But I still think that Richmond getting Tom Lynch is an absolute coup, and they're probably my front runners at the moment for winning the trade period so far, because I just think he gives them a marking target up forward and allows them to play revolt a little bit higher, where I think he's quite dangerous. And I don't know how they're fitting all that into the cap, but good luck to him.
Well, we know they can't fit him out of the cap because they've already had to shuffle out quite a number of their lower players.
Yeah, they haven't got a lot of quality. They haven't lost a lot of quality though.
Just depth.
Well, they haven't, but we haven't really seen them tested with injuries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good point. It's a good point, Nicky.
And I think if they do, I think they're going to be similar to what I see as Port and Geelong. They don't have that good tier underneath because they've had to shuffle them out to get Lynch in. I mean, it's great for their future, but my other thing, I'm a little bit unsure about this, is can Hardwick change his game plan to suit that? Because it's going to have to be quite a different game plan.
Well, it depends on whether
currently
Clarkson
have.
can give him some time, and we know that Clarko's on the payroll at Richmond as the strategy manager. So it depends how much time Alistair's got in the off season, whether him and Hardwick can have a beer and come up with something new.
Well, apparently Hawthorn have thrown their cap in the ring about Wingard as well.
Yeah, right strategy, wrong player earlier. It wasn't Gov, it was Wingard. That doesn't surprise me.
But that helps us because their highest top pick is well after ours.
Yep, exactly. It takes them out. Well, I mean, don't forget, there's still Pollock. What do we think Port's going to get for Pollock? That hasn't been done yet.
I think North Melbourne...
It's 11, isn't it?
A 9.
Yeah,
Oh.
the North pick is after Port and after ours.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, so that's blown
I
out.
thought they had another. Sorry, I
Nope.
was wrong about that. I
No,
thought
they finished
were
above
in
us.
front
I
of
think they're around about pick 11 after the free agents.
Yeah. Okay.
They're directly after Port Adelaide.
Yeah, there was a really key win. There was a really key win, I think, in about round 23 that just sort of made sure we stayed under North and Port, which was the what we went up.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
we've probably done all that to death. There's been a bit going on, and it sounds like things are ramping up. And obviously, we'll be back again next Tuesday to talk about the rest of it. But in the meantime, who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors. Nicky or Macca?
Can Nicky go first? Because I've got to go and I have got a cockwomble.
Yeah, I have too. Right.
There's a few cock wobbles.
Underground, overground, wombling breed.
So to start off with, we can't have a cock wobble where it's either not AFL or Port being involved with this, and Ken Hinkley starting the Hoff chart at their best and fairest.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Cock wobble. Incredibly embarrassing. Incredibly embarrassing.
The only one in the room go, Hoff, 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 Hoff.
Yeah. So I couldn't quite bear to watch it because I don't like secondhand embarrassment. I really felt for the bloke, but no. I think Blues fans who were adamant they were going to get Shield, Setterfield, and McGovern, and they weren't going to give up pick one, they weren't going to give up this other stuff, and we should be very pleased, to give like 1 second round pick. That's all McGovern's worth, really, because we were big meanies to him. I've quite enjoyed today and the fact that Blues fans on Big Footy are just losing their shit. So that's delightful. I think North Melbourne, once again, missing out on a big fish. They're the cockwombles of the trade season. Poor bastards. They try really hard, but it just never happens for them. So who have you got, Fiend?
I'll go
Or
Pete.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I want to, on that theme, Nicky, there's either got to be someone from the AFL House or Port. I'm going to go for Port's list. I'm going to go for Port's list management, and I'm going to go right back to when they had a perfectly good All-Australian squad ruckman in Matt Lobby, who'd come off of an All-Australian squad year, and they thought that wasn't good enough. And then Paddy Ryder came onto the market, and they thought, we better go and grab Paddy Ryder. So that's okay because we'll need to play him up forward. So that's okay. We've got Paddy Ryder up forward. We've got Lobby. And, of course, they didn't seem to understand that Paddy Ryder was never a key forward. He was a ruckman.
Yep.
And so what did they end up getting stuck with? They had 2 ruckmen. And so what they had to do is they had to get rid of that All-Australian ruckman. And so they traded Lobby and his contract out to Carlton. That then meant
And
that
then they had to pay him.
They didn't
They
have
had
the
to keep paying.
exactly. Yep. Then they didn't have the key forward that they got Paddy Ryder. So then they had to trade in Dixon. So they got Dixon in, and then Ryder's broken down. And then so what have they had to do now? They've had to get in another ruckman. So they're right back to where they started. I love Port. I do. They just keep on giving. So they're my their list management is my Cockwomble nomination.
It's a
That's
fair
years
call.
in the making. That's years in the making.
It's years in the
Cockwomble.
making. It's years in the
That's
making.
good. That's
A very
good
good
one.
one.
What a
Very-
Cockwomble that is.
I don't think it's over either for Port. I think that's we're going to be revisiting that next year with the next episode. I've forgotten what mine is.
As DSG said, Port have no rucking idea.
Beautifully done. Well, if you can't remember, I also think that the Twitter trade accounts have just been spectacularly wrong so far this season. So that's amused me. They've had 2 days and they've just got almost everything wrong.
Yeah, I reckon,
Pete, I think you've nailed it, because that is years in the making and it is just delightful to us. Port and their missing puzzle pieces. I don't know what puzzle they've got going on.
Oh, I remember.
But they keep getting wrong pieces.
I remember my cockwomble. It's the Geelong Football Club. Yep. A couple of years after pleading and begging and pulling the heartstrings on Dangerfield having to come home because it's his family and blah, blah, blah. Now they've got Tim Kelly, and there's probably a side conversation about that, but now they've got Tim Kelly wanting to go home for family reasons. He's got young families in WA, and they decided to play hardball. Now, I understand the conversation about he's only been there a year, but if that's not the height of hypocrisy from Geelong Football Club, I don't know what is.
And Gary, Abler and Dangerfield had to come home, so they've got
had to come home. And we haven't heard anything about Ablett's family issues since he's been back in Geelong either, have we? That kind of went really quiet.
Gee, there's good nominations here.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think any other week, that's quite a good one. You've got their Phoenix, but I think for years in the making...
Oh, I'm happy with the Port one.
Yeah, it's got to go to the Port list manager.
Nice work, Peter. Now,
Thanks,
Macca,
mate.
you've got... On that note, you're off.
I have to bail out. I'll catch you all guys next week.
Okay.
See you on Twitter.
See ya.
Now, Macca, you got a bit of a hard act to follow now.
Oh, yes, I am a grumpy old man. That's what I am. And I really don't care who knows it. I don't vote politicians.
Well, obviously, with the no football on at the moment, it's all going to revolve around the trading situation. Firstly, I'd like to give a sweep to Reid. I think he's finally overcome his nerves and his apprehension, his fear of Sauce, and I think he's done. He's played him very well, and I think the result that he's brought out is a good result. So a little bit of a sweep to Reid for handling Sauce, who I think is one of the hardest people to handle. On the other hand, smacks all round to the Carlton Football Club and their supporters who seem to think they're entitled to everything. You know, Sewell was going to go there, and McCubbin goes there for absolutely threepence halfpenny, and Setterfield, he's just the steak knives at the end of it. But they didn't get Sewell, and they didn't get McGovern. Well, they got McGovern, but they had to pay a lot more than they thought they were going to pay, and they'll get the goat bloke with a bung leg from GWS and Setterfield. So you're getting what you deserve. You're a hopeless football club, and you'll always be near the bottom. It's just a hopeless football club.
Jesus.
And also another big slap to Sam McClure. God, you are an idiot. You are an idiot. You make a public fool of yourself all the time, non-stop. You're an embarrassment to the game. If it's calling yourself a reporter, you just make shit up. You do. And then also when you talk about the way you've been talking about the McGovern trade, for example. Oh, well, you know, a second rounder or something. We know you're a Carlton supporter, mate.
Well, I thought you were going to say something else then.
And
I was ready to hit the bloody kill switch.
Look, your bias is absolutely ridiculous. You're not a good-looking guy. You're ugly for a start, and the stuff that comes out of your mouth is even uglier. So you're an embarrassment to the game. Give it up, son.
Just gone bang. Just gone.
What do you think about Burton?
Yeah.
Look, he's just your standard old dickhead. That's all it is.
Drinks.
We don't need to be here for another hour.
Couldn't agree more.
Can I just? Sorry, I thought you were done, Macca.
Well, I am. That'll do.
Oh.
Sorry,
Macca. I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I was going to say, can I add purple in there? I was listening to the trade radio list assessment from Terry Wallace this afternoon, and I was just And I listened to Terry Wallace, and he goes, "Look, there's some cohesion issues, and we don't know how deep they are, and we don't know where what that's going to do. But they've got a list in their prime, and they should be contending right now. So there's no reason why they couldn't, unless there's some problems with that cohesion." And Damien Barrett comes out and goes, "Oh, this is such a heavy knocks on Adelaide and all this sort of stuff." At the end of the issue, end of the interview, I thought to myself, You are so past the pale. It is not funny. You're an absolute moron. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna recommend Macca put him up for a smack this week.
Look, out of the four of those stupid shock jocks on Trade Radio, it's saying something when Kane Corns is the one that's making most sense at the moment, and he is
Del Santo.
Yeah, no, but I mean out of the shock jockey types like McClure, Hutchison, Barrett, and Corns. Corns is the one that's actually making a half bit of sense. I actually enjoyed listening to Cal Toomey. I reckon he's good value. Del Santo is pretty good value. But by and large, and I know they've got to fill time, but by and large, they took the biggest load of shit on that bloody podcast and on that live stream that you've ever heard in your life.
Embarrassing.
And if a player isn't Victorian or if a club isn't Victorian that they're talking about, I heard Matthew Lloyd do an assessment early on in the week on Adelaide's list, and I don't even reckon he knows. I don't reckon he would even know who's on our list. That it was just such a generic, broad brush analysis, and then they get onto a stupid club like Carlton or someone like that, and all of a sudden they're spending 15 minutes drilling down into every finer detail. It's embarrassing, like you say, Macca, and I live for the day that we actually get better content around this period, like the Yanks do, because there's a lot of intrigue around it, and there's a fair bit of assessment and analysis that can be attached to it, but the bloody bullshit official AFL trade channel is the absolute pits. I don't even listen to it now.
Yeah, one little thing I could have said before,
it's Proc Media,
which is really another slapper one. Why did they treat Port Adelaide almost as if they were a Victorian team and us as this horrible outsider? For example, a player comes from Adelaide, Dangerfield, he wins a Brownlow, he wins best and fairest, he's an All-Australian. Oh, he should go home. Yeah, let him go home. He wants to go home with a family. Yeah, first rounder should do that. And then they've got this bloody Wingard from Port Adelaide. They talk about him being worth 2 first rounders, for God's sake.
I actually think it's a carryover from the old days, Macca. I think that Adelaide Crows represent state of origin South Australia. And I think Port Adelaide don't represent the same thing, and there's a grudging respect in Victoria for Port's history, rightly or wrongly. But I think the Crows have and always will represent in the psyche of the Victorians, even if they can't actually enunciate it. I think in the psyche of Victoria, the Adelaide Crows represent everything that they used to hate about the SA Victorian rivalry, and I think that's why we get grudging respect when it's due, and they're quick to turn like they did in 2018 when we're just 1 degree off being perfect.
Yeah, and also I don't think they really see Port as a real threat to be a dominant club.
That's true.
You don't pick on the toddlers, and I think
there's an AFL directive to talk Port up. It is so obvious,
or not talk them down at least.
Well, not talk them down, but to actually talk them up, there's definitely an AFL directive regarding that. And it changed when there was the mooted move to the Oval, and we were digging our heels in. And the AFL wanted that because it meant they got more money out of it, because the AFL took the bulk of the money that went to Footy Park. And also Port were losing money. It was embarrassing that they were having to bring tarps out.
Yeah. So Mummy steps in, makes sure they get looked after, and they get talked
nicely.
And they get talked about nicely because they're not, and because they can't really survive on their own. I know we're getting involved in the Port Adelaide sort of bashing, but
they're just
they're a boutique club. They're a boutique club. They're like the
tattoo
North
parlour
Melbourne
club.
of
Boutique,
the North.
my ass, they're a bloody op shop.
Yeah, that's right. They're the North Melbourne. They're the North Melbourne of South Australia. Like, nobody actually wants to go there. They can't get more than 20,000 people to a game. You know, for all their hoo-ha and thumping chests about how good they were when they were a suburban team, they basically delivered nothing on the AFL stage. You know, they sit there and go, the supporters go, oh, well, you've only won 2 flags, we've won 1. Said, yeah, well, you know what? They're winning. They're pretty hard to win. And if they were so easy to catch up, then why haven't you done it yet? And it's because they're a bunch of fake tough, beard-wearing, poorly tattooed...
Yeah, what about the men? What about the men?
And on that note, I think we better wind it up. Thanks everyone for listening on Facebook and Spreaker. Don't forget you can catch us on all the podcast sites, iTunes. You can go to our website and listen to all our stuff on www.aflcrowcast.com. Thanks guys for joining us. Nikki, thank you, Macca, Donkey, and thanks Pete if you're out there somewhere, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.
Yeah, good night.
Night all.
See you next Tuesday, Phoenix.